Have you ever noticed how life's most extraordinary moments often begin on the most ordinary days? That's exactly how it happened for Amanda Gutierrez. A Tuesday afternoon at Westfield Market, just like any other Tuesday for the past 3 years. Except this one would change everything. Amanda stood in the checkout line, mentally calculating the total as each item moved down the conveyor belt. $47.89. Plus the cereal her son Ethan insisted on. That's $51.24. Plus those marked down apples, roughly $54. She had exactly $58.67 in her checking account. It would be close, but they'd make it through another week. She watched the cashier scan each item, her stomach tightening as the numbers climbed. $49.35, $52.48, $55.76. A small victory. She'd calculated almost perfectly, just enough to cover essentials until payday on Friday. No extras, of course, no small luxuries. But they'd eat, and that's what mattered. Then came the dreaded beep. "Card declined," the cashier announced, just loud enough for nearby customers to hear. Amanda felt her cheeks flush. "That's impossible. Can you try again?" The cashier sighed, clearly having seen this scene play out hundreds of times before. She ran the card again. "Same result. I don't understand," Amanda whispered, fumbling for her phone to check her account. There it was, a forgotten automatic. Payment for Ethan's after-school program, $45, processed that morning. Leaving her with exactly $13.67. The line behind her was growing. She could feel the weight of impatient stares. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "I'll have to put some things back." The cashier started setting aside items, the fresh fruit first, then the chicken breasts, then Ethan's favorite cereal, each item a small defeat. Amanda stared at her hands, wishing she could disappear. This wasn't new, this monthly dance with financial disaster, but it never got easier. 3 years since Michael had walked out, leaving her with a mountain of debt and a 4-year-old son. 3 years of working 2 jobs, of stretching every dollar, of explaining to Ethan why they couldn't afford what other kids had. "Is there a problem?" The voice behind her was gentle, with a slight rumble, like distant thunder on a summer night. Amanda turned slightly, keeping her eyes down. A pair of worn boots came into view. Jeans, a simple dark jacket. "No problem," she managed. "Just need to put some things back." "How much is the total?" the man asked the cashier. The cashier looked up. Her eyes widened, just slightly. "It's $68.43. "I'll cover it," the man said, already reaching for his wallet. "No, please," Amanda protested, finally looking up. "I can't let you—" The words died in her throat as she recognized him. The kind eyes, the shoulder-length dark hair, the gentle half-smile that millions had seen on movie screens. Keanu Reeves, standing in line behind her at a suburban grocery store on a Tuesday afternoon. "It's no trouble," he said quietly, as if helping strangers was the most natural thing in the world. "Please, let me do this." Before Amanda could protest further, he had handed the cashier his card. The transaction went through without a hitch. "Thank you," Amanda whispered, her voice catching. "I don't know what to say." Keanu simply nodded, that same gentle smile on his face. "We all need help sometimes." And just like that, a mundane Tuesday became a moment Amanda would never forget. But this story isn't just about a celebrity's random act of kindness. It's about what happened next. It's about how a simple gesture can ripple outward, touching lives in ways no one could predict. Because what Keanu Reeves didn't know, couldn't know, was that Amanda Gutierrez was at her breaking point that day, and that his kindness would spark a chain reaction that would transform not just her life, but an entire community. Amanda had always been strong. That's what everyone told her. "I don't know how you do it all," her co-workers would say, watching. Her rush from her day job as a medical receptionist to her evening shifts at the local diner. "You're superwoman," her sister Alejandra would insist during their weekly phone calls. But the truth, Amanda was exhausted. Bone deep, soul tired, exhausted. The kind that makes you sit in your car for 5 extra minutes before walking into your apartment, just to have a moment of silence. The kind that has you crying in the shower where your child can't hear you. The night before her encounter with Keanu, Amanda had stayed up until 2 a.m., staring at her budget spreadsheet, moving numbers around like puzzle pieces that would never fit. The rent increase notice sat on the table beside her laptop. $150 more per month, effective next month. Impossible. Simply impossible. She had applied for 3 better-paying jobs that week. All rejections. The after-school program was threatening to drop Ethan if she fell behind on payments again. Her car made a concerning rattle whenever she drove above 40 meters Strebid. And now, standing in the grocery store with a declined card and a line of impatient shoppers, something inside her had finally cracked. That's when Keanu Reeves appeared, like some sort of guardian angel in casual clothes, paying for her groceries as if it were nothing. But to Amanda, it was everything. Not just the money, though God knows she needed it, but the simple act of being seen, of someone recognizing her struggle and saying, without words, "You matter, your problems matter, you are not alone." As the cashier handed her the receipt, Amanda noticed Keanu had moved to another register. Part of her wanted to follow him, to express her gratitude more adequately. But what would she say? "Thanks for the groceries. I've loved your work since Speed." It seemed inadequate, almost ridiculous. So instead, she gathered her bags and headed to her car, still dazed by what had happened. As she loaded the groceries into her trunk, she noticed something tucked between 2 bags. An envelope. Plain, white, unmarked. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was $500 in cash and a note on simple stationery. From one human to another. Pass it on when you can. No signature, no fanfare, just an act of kindness that brought tears to her eyes. Right. There in the parking lot, Amanda sat in her car for a long moment, the envelope clutched to her chest. $500. The exact amount she needed for the rent increase and Ethan's program fees. It felt like a miracle, but it also felt like something else, a responsibility. "Pass it on when you can," the note had said. The thing about struggling for so long is that you forget what hope feels like. You get so used to bracing for the next hit that you stop believing good things can happen. But driving home that day, with Keanu Reeves's groceries in her trunk and his cash in her purse, Amanda felt something stir inside her, a feeling so foreign that it took her several miles to recognize it. Hope. Simple, fragile hope. When she picked up Ethan from the after-school program, he immediately sensed the difference. At 7 years old, he had become attuned to his mother's moods, had learned to gauge the household tension by the set of her shoulders, the tightness around her eyes. "Did something good happen, Mom?" he asked as they walked to the car. Amanda smiled, really smiled, for what felt like the first time in months. "Yes, mijo, something very good happened." That night, instead of retreating to her spreadsheets after Ethan was asleep, Amanda sat on their small balcony with a cup of tea. Her mind was racing, not with anxiety for once, but with possibilities. The money would solve her immediate problems, but Keanu's note kept echoing in her mind. "Pass it on when you can." She wanted to honor that request, that trust he had placed in her. But how? She had so little to give, or did she? Amanda thought about her neighbors in their apartment complex. Leslie Porter in 3B, an elderly woman who rarely had visitors. Michael Vasquez in 4A, a young veteran who sometimes needed help carrying his groceries up the stairs because of his prosthetic leg. Brittany Ward across the hall, another single mother with twins just younger than Ethan. They were all struggling in their own ways, all fighting private battles, all needing a little kindness. The next morning, Amanda woke up with a plan. It wasn't grand or elaborate. She couldn't solve anyone's problems with a single gesture the way Keanu had temporarily solved hers. But she could start small. She could create ripples. She used a small portion of the money to buy ingredients for a week's worth of extra meals. That evening, after her shift but before picking up Ethan, she delivered homemade enchiladas to Leslie, who nearly cried at the simple act of being remembered. She brought a grocery store gift card to Brittany, casually mentioning that she'd gotten it as a work bonus but couldn't use it herself. She offered to drive Michael to his weekly VA appointment, saving him the lengthy bus ride, small acts, tiny ripples. But something shifted in Amanda as she performed each one. The weight she'd carried for so long, the isolation, the feeling that she was struggling alone began to lift. Because in helping others, she connected with them, and in connecting, she found community. Word spread quickly in their small apartment complex. Amanda Gutierrez in 2C was organizing a children's clothing swap. Amanda was starting a carpool system for the building service workers. Amanda was creating a shared childcare rotation for weekend shifts. She never mentioned Keanu Reeves, never told anyone about the money or the note. That was between her and the kind stranger who had seen her at her lowest moment. But she carried the lesson with her. We all need help sometimes. And sometimes we can be the help others need. 3 weeks after the grocery store encounter, Amanda was sorting through Ethan's outgrown clothes for the swap when her phone rang. It was Dr. Carey's office, where she worked ASA receptionist. Amanda, Dr. Carey said without preamble, remember that patient assistance program you suggested last month? The one to help uninsured families navigate the healthcare system? Amanda remembered. It had been a passing comment during a staff meeting, quickly dismissed as too complicated to implement. We're going to try it, Dr. Carey continued, and I want you to run it. It would mean more hours, better pay, and using that social work background you've never gotten to use. Amanda sat down hard on Ethan's bed. Her social work degree, the one she'd earned just before getting pregnant, the one that had gathered dust while she took whatever jobs would pay the bills. Are you serious? She managed to ask. Dead serious. Your work organizing the apartment complex's resources impressed me. You've got exactly the skills we need. So what do you say? What could she say? A chance to use her education to help others professionally, to earn a living wage doing meaningful work. All because she had taken Keanu's words to heart. All because she had decided to pass on kindness in whatever way she could. I say yes, Amanda replied, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. Absolutely yes. That night, as Ethan slept, Amanda wrote a letter. Not to Keanu Reeves. She had no way to reach him, and besides, celebrities probably received thousands of thank you notes from fans. No, this letter was for herself. A reminder of how quickly life can change. How a single act of kindness can set off a chain reaction. How hope, once rekindled, can illuminate paths previously hidden in darkness. She sealed the letter in an envelope and wrote on the front, "Open when you forget that miracles happen." Then she tucked it into her bedside drawer next to Keanu's. Original note. Amanda Gutierrez went to sleep that night with a full heart and a clear mind. The struggles weren't over. Life doesn't transform completely in 3 weeks, even with a celebrity encounter and an unexpected windfall. But something fundamental had shifted. She had remembered her own power. She had reconnected with her community. She had rediscovered hope. And somewhere across the city, or perhaps across the country by now, Keanu Reeves continued his quiet journey, unaware of the ripples his simple act of kindness had created. Unaware that by helping one struggling mother in a grocery store checkout line, he had set in motion a wave of compassion that would touch dozens of lives. But that's the thing about kindness. You never really know where it will lead. You just have to trust that in a world that can sometimes seem dark and uncaring, a single light can make all the difference. The morning after Amanda accepted Dr. Carey's offer, she woke before her alarm. For the first time in years, she wasn't dragged into consciousness by the harsh beeping, already exhausted before the day began. Instead, she opened her eyes naturally, feeling something unfamiliar. Anticipation. She slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Ethan. The apartment was peaceful in the early dawn light, small and worn but clean. A home they had made, together. She started the coffee maker and stood by the window, watching the world wake up. The parking lot below was beginning to fill as early shift workers headed out. Among them was Kyle Murphy from 1A, a nurse at the county hospital, trudging toward his battered Honda with the weight of night shift exhaustion on his shoulders. Amanda made a quick decision. She poured a travel mug of coffee, grabbed a banana from the fruit bowl, and hurried downstairs, catching Kyle just as he was unlocking his car. "Morning," she called softly. "Thought you might need these." Kyle looked up, surprise dissolving into grateful relief as she handed him the coffee and fruit. "Amanda, you're an angel." Night shift was brutal. "Just passing along some kindness," she replied with a smile. "Drive safe." As she turned to go back upstairs, Kyle called after her. "Hey, I heard about your new position at the clinic. That's fantastic. Really, you deserve it." Amanda paused, touched that news had traveled so quickly that her neighbors had taken note of her small victory. "Thanks, Kyle. That means a lot." Back in the apartment, she found Ethan sitting at the kitchen table, hair tousled from sleep, yawning widely. "Were you bringing Mr. Murphy coffee?" he asked. "I was," Amanda confirmed, pouring cereal into a bowl for him. "Remember how we talked? About doing nice things for people when we can?" Ethan nodded seriously, spooning Cheerios into his mouth. "Like when Keanu Reeves bought our groceries?" Amanda froze. She hadn't told Ethan about that. She'd simply said a kind stranger had helped them. "How did you know it was Keanu Reeves?" Ethan gave her a look that only a 7-year-old could perfect, part exasperation, part superiority. "Mom, I know what Keanu Reeves looks like. We watched Bill and Ted at Diego's house. Plus," he added with a shrug, "everybody at school is talking about it. Casey's mom saw it happen and told everyone." Amanda sighed. Of course, in their tight-knit community, news traveled faster than light. She should have known their grocery store encounter wouldn't remain private for long. "Does it bother you that people know?" Ethan asked perceptively. Amanda considered the question. Did it bother her? Initially, she'd kept it private, treasuring the moment as something personal, something sacred. But now, seeing how the story had inspired her neighbors, how it had created a small wave of kindness that was rippling through their community, maybe there was value in sharing it. "No, mijo, it doesn't bother me," she decided. "But it's important to remember that the nice thing Mr. Reeves did wasn't nice because he's famous. It was nice because he saw someone who needed help, and he helped. That's something anyone can do." Ethan nodded thoughtfully, processing this with the remarkable clarity children sometimes possess. "That's why you helped Mr. Murphy this morning." "Exactly." Amanda smiled, ruffling his hair. "Now finish your breakfast. Big day ahead." And it was indeed a big day, the first of many that would reshape their lives in ways Amanda couldn't yet imagine. Dr. Carey's medical practice served a diverse community on the east side of the city. The modest clinic was sandwiched between a laundromat and a taqueria, with a waiting room that was usually packed by 8 a.m. Amanda had worked the front desk for 2 years, checking in patients, filing insurance claims, and occasionally translating for Spanish-speaking families. It was steady work, but until now advancement had seemed impossible. As she walked through the clinic doors that morning, everything looked different. Same beige walls, same outdated magazines on the side tables, same faint antiseptic smell. But now possibility hung in the air. "There she is," called Daniel Russell, one of the physician assistants. The woman with the big ideas. Amanda felt herself blush as several staff members looked up and smiled. She wasn't used to being the center of attention. "Morning, everyone," she said, making her way to the front desk where her colleague Lisa Vance was already checking in patients. "Dr. Carey wants to see you in her office," Lisa whispered. "And Amanda, we're all really happy for you." Amanda nodded her thanks and headed to the back office, nervousness fluttering in her stomach. Dr. Melanie Carey had founded the practice 20 years ago with a mission to serve underinsured and immigrant populations. She was respected, even revered in the community, and notoriously difficult to impress. Amanda knocked lightly on the open door. Dr. Carey looked up from her computer, gesturing for Amanda to enter. At 58, she had the energetic presence of someone who had found her calling early and never wavered from it. "Sit down, Amanda," she said, removing her reading glasses. "I want to talk about your role here." For the next 30 minutes, Dr. Carey outlined her vision for the patient assistance program. Amanda would start by identifying families who were falling through the cracks of the healthcare system, the working poor who made too much for Medicaid but too little for private insurance, undocumented immigrants afraid to seek care, elderly, patients struggling to navigate Medicare. "Your job will be to connect them with resources," Dr. Carey explained. "Help them apply for programs, find specialist care they can afford, arrange transportation to appointments. Essentially, remove the barriers that keep them from getting healthy." "It's exactly what I trained to do," Amanda said, her excitement building. "My social work thesis was on healthcare access in underserved communities." Dr. Carey smiled, a rare occurrence that transformed her serious face. "I know. I finally read your resume properly. Frankly, you've been overqualified to work the front desk since day one." "I needed the job," Amanda said simply. "After Ethan's father left, well, social work positions are competitive, and I needed something steady." "And now?" Amanda straightened in her chair. "Now I'm ready. More than ready." "Good," Dr. Carey nodded. "Because there's something else. The Patterson Foundation heard about our program idea. They're interested in funding it as a pilot. If it works here, they want to implement it in clinics across the county." Amanda's breath caught. "That's incredible." "It means scrutiny, data collection, results," Dr. Carey cautioned. "This won't be easy, Amanda. You'll be building something from the ground up. I understand. You'll also get a proper salary, starting at $58,000 with benefits." Dr. Carey slid a folder across the desk. "Your contract. Take it home. Read it. Sign it if you're comfortable." Amanda stared at the folder. $58,000, more than double what she currently made between both jobs. Enough to quit the diner, enough for a better apartment, enough to start saving for Ethan's college, enough to breathe. "Thank you," she managed, her voice thick with emotion. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Dr. Carey replied. "Now, you have 2 weeks to wrap up your current duties and transition to your new role. I suggest you start by mapping the community. Resources we already know about." Contract in hand, her phone buzzed with a text from Alejandra. "Heard about the new job. So proud of you, sis. Celebratory dinner at my place tonight? Bring Ethan." Amanda smiled, typing back a quick "yes" before heading to her desk. The news was spreading even faster than she'd imagined. But instead of discomfort, she felt supported, held up by a community that was celebrating her success as if it were their own. That evening, as she and Ethan walked the 3 blocks to Alejandra's apartment, Amanda noticed details of her neighborhood she'd been too tired or preoccupied to see before. The community garden on the corner, bursting with summer vegetables, the freshly painted mural on the side of the convenience store, depicting children of different cultures holding hands, the elderly couple sitting on their porch, waving as neighbors passed by. "Tia!" Ethan exclaimed as Alejandra opened her door, throwing himself into his aunt's arms. "There's my favorite nephew," Alejandra laughed, hugging him tight before turning to Amanda. "And there's my superstar sister." The apartment was filled with people, not just family, but neighbors and friends. Lisa from the clinic, Kyle Murphy, the nurse from downstairs, Leslie Porter, the elderly woman Amanda had brought enchiladas to. Even Michael Vasquez, the veteran, was there, chatting comfortably with Alejandra's husband. "Surprise," they called. When Amanda entered, raising glasses in her direction, Amanda stood speechless in the doorway, overwhelmed by the gesture. "What is all this?" "A celebration," Alejandra said, putting an arm around her shoulders. "When one of us succeeds, we all succeed. That's what community means." As the evening progressed, Amanda moved through the gathering, accepting congratulations and sharing her excitement about the new program. But there was something else happening too. People were connecting with each other, exchanging phone numbers, making plans. The elderly Leslie was offering to watch Brittany Ward's twins one afternoon a week. Kyle was discussing a carpool arrangement with two other healthcare workers from the building. The ripples were becoming waves. Later, as guests began to leave, Leslie Porter took Amanda's hands in her gnarled ones. "I've lived in that building for 23 years, she said, her voice wavery with age. "Never knew most of my neighbors until you started bringing us together. That's a special gift, child." Amanda felt tears prick her eyes. "I just passed on some kindness that was shown to me." "Well, it's changing things," Leslie insisted. "You're changing things." On the walk home, with Ethan skipping ahead, Amanda reflected on Leslie's words. Was she changing things? Or was she simply creating space for the natural human desire to connect, to help, to belong? Either way, something was happening in their small corner of the world. Something that had started with a chance encounter in a grocery store. Something that now felt bigger than her, bigger than Keanu Reeves, bigger than a single act of kindness. As they reached their apartment building, Amanda noticed a flyer on the community bulletin board by the entrance. In bold letters at the top, "Neighborhood Resource Exchange. Let's share what we have." Below was a simple system for neighbors to offer and request help. Childcare, rides, tool lending, meal sharing, tutoring. At the bottom, a single line. "Started by Amanda G. Apt to see, inspired by a stranger's kindness." Amanda hadn't created the flyer. Someone else had taken her idea and expanded it, formalized it, made it more accessible. The ripples continued, moving beyond her control now, finding their own path. She took Ethan's hand and headed upstairs, a profound sense of peace settling over her. This, she realized, was how change happened. Not in grand gestures or sweeping reforms, but in small moments of human connection. One person helps another, that person helps two more, those two help four. And gradually, invisibly, the world shifts toward kindness. 6 months passed like a dream. The kind of dream where you're running without effort, where doors open before you reach them, where the path ahead is suddenly clear after years of fog. Amanda's patient assistance program at Dr. Carey's clinic had exceeded all expectations. In half a year, they had connected over 200 families with healthcare resources, navigated complex insurance issues for dozens of elderly patients, and established a free transportation network for those who couldn't otherwise make their appointments. The Patterson Foundation was impressed, so impressed that they had doubled their funding and featured the program in their annual report. Local news had picked up the story, running a 3-minute segment that focused on the program's community-based approach. "It's about removing barriers," Amanda had explained to the reporter, a young woman named Nicole Elliott, who seemed genuinely interested in the work. Healthcare isn't just about doctors and medicine, it's about whether you can get to your appointment, whether you understand what the doctor is telling you, whether you can afford the prescription. We address all of those issues. The day after the segment aired, the clinic's phone hadn't stopped ringing. Other medical practices wanted to implement similar programs. Social work students from the local university asked about internships. Community members offered to volunteer. Dr. Carey had called Amanda into her office, closed the door, and said simply, "I think we need to expand." Now, on a crisp October morning, Amanda stood in the doorway of their new space, a storefront too. Doors down from the clinic that would serve as the official headquarters of the East Side Patient Advocacy Center. Light streamed through the large windows, illuminating freshly painted walls and new furniture donated by a local business. "What do you think?" asked Chad Smith, the contractor who had volunteered his time to renovate the space. He stood beside her, hands in his pockets, surveying his work with quiet pride. "It's perfect," Amanda breathed, still unable to believe this was real. "Absolutely perfect." Chad nodded, satisfied. "Community built this," he said, gesturing to the space. "I may have held the hammer, but everyone contributed something." He was right. The computers had come from a technology company's upgrade cycle. The waiting area furniture from a hotel renovation. The children's corner had been stocked by a local daycare that was closing. Even the coffee maker, a fancy model that would have been far beyond their budget, had been donated by a grateful patient whose insurance appeal Amanda had successfully navigated. "The sign will be installed tomorrow," Chad added. "Just in time for your grand opening." Amanda thanked him, still marveling at how willing people had been to help once they understood the mission. It was as if her community had been waiting for an opportunity to come together, to contribute to something larger than themselves. As Chad left, Amanda walked through the space, mentally placing each staff member at their desk. In addition to herself, the center now employed 2 part-time social work students, a retired nurse who volunteered 3 days a week, and a full-time administrative assistant, Brittany Ward, the single mother from across the hall, who had proven to be exceptionally organized and empathetic with clients. Amanda paused at what would be her own office. A small room, but with a window and enough space for a desk, a few chairs, and a bookshelf. On the desk was a framed photo of Ethan, now 8, grinning widely, missing his 2 front teeth. Beside it, a small potted plant, a gift from Leslie Porter, who had become something of a grandmother figure to them over the past months. A knock at the front door pulled her from her thoughts. Through the glass, she saw a familiar silhouette, Alejandra, carrying what looked like lunch bags. "I figured you'd be here obsessing over every detail," her sister said as Amanda let her in. "Thought you might need fuel." They sat on the new sofa in the waiting area, unwrapping sandwiches from Amanda's favorite deli. For a few minutes, they ate in comfortable silence, Alejandra giving Amanda space to absorb the magnitude of what she had accomplished. "Remember when we were kids," Alejandra said finally, "and you used to organize all the neighborhood children into those elaborate pretend hospitals?" Amanda laughed. "With the bandages made from torn sheets and the medicine that was just colored. Water. Mom was so mad about those sheets," Alejandra recalled, smiling. "But she also said you'd be taking care of people someday." She was right. The mention of their mother brought a bittersweet pang. She had passed away 5 years ago, before Ethan was born, before Michael had left, before Amanda's life had unraveled and then, remarkably, rewoven itself into something stronger. "She would have loved this place," Amanda said softly. "She would have loved who you've become," Alejandra corrected. "I know I do." After lunch, Alejandra helped Amanda arrange brochures and set up the children's corner. As they worked, Amanda found herself thinking about the journey that had led her here, not just the encounter with Keanu Reeves, though that had certainly been a catalyst, but all the small moments of connection that had followed, the community that had formed around a simple idea that we are responsible for each other. "Oh, I almost forgot," Alejandra said as they were finishing up. "This came to the apartment for you." She handed Amanda a large envelope. "Looks official." Amanda opened it curiously. Inside was a letter from the mayor's office, inviting her to serve on the city's new Healthcare Equity Task Force. The committee would advise on policies to reduce healthcare disparities across the city, with a focus on implementing community-based solutions like Amanda's program. "They want me on a task force," she said incredulously, passing the letter to Alejandra. "The mayor's office. Me." Alejandra read it quickly, her eyes widening. "Amanda, this is huge. Your work is literally shaping city policy now." "It doesn't make sense." Amanda shook her head. "A year ago, I was checking in patients and serving dinner plates. How did I get here?" "You got here by being exactly who you've always been," Alejandra said firmly. "Someone who sees problems and finds solutions. Someone who brings people together. Someone who never gives up, even when things seem impossible." She handed the letter back. "The only difference is that now other people see it too." As they locked up the new center and headed home, Amanda's phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Carey. CNN called. They want to do a feature on the program for their American Innovators series. "Call me." Amanda showed the message to Alejandra, who squealed with excitement. "National news. Amanda, do you realize what this means? Your program could spread across the country." The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. Amanda had never sought the spotlight. She had only wanted to help her community, to pass on the kindness that had been shown to her. But if sharing her story could help other communities build similar programs, what would I even wear on CNN? She asked weakly, and Alejandra laughed, linking her arm through her sister's. "We'll figure it out," she promised. "We always do." That evening, after putting Ethan to bed, Amanda sat on their small balcony with a cup of tea, just as she had on the night after her encounter with Keanu Reeves. But now, instead of an apartment complex view, she looked out over a small park. They had moved 2 months ago to a slightly larger apartment closer to the clinic, with a second bedroom for Ethan and a kitchen big enough for a proper table. It wasn't luxury by any means, but it was progress, tangible evidence of how far they had come. Her phone lit up with a notification, an email from Nicole Elliott, the reporter who had done the original story on the program. Amanda opened it, expecting questions about the CNN feature. Instead, Nicole had sent a link to a new article she had written, titled "The Keanu Effect: How One Act of Kindness Transformed a Community." Uday, the subtitle read, "When actor Keanu Reeves paid for a stranger's groceries, he couldn't have known he was setting off a chain reaction that would ultimately change thousands of lives." Amanda clicked the link, her heart racing. The article detailed the grocery store encounter, Amanda's subsequent efforts to pass on the kindness, the formation of the neighborhood resource exchange, and finally, the development of the patient advocacy program and its growing impact. Nicole had interviewed neighbors, clinic staff, even Dr. Carey, weaving together a narrative that traced everything back to that fateful day in the checkout line. The piece ended with a quote from Amanda. "Kindness isn't just a nice gesture. It's a force that can transform lives, build communities, and solve problems that seem insurmountable. All it takes is one person willing to start the chain." At the bottom of the email, Nicole had added a personal note. "I thought you should see this before it goes live tomorrow. By the way, my editor has a contact who knows Keanu's agent. If you'd like to thank him personally, I might be able to arrange it. Let me know." Amanda sat very still, absorbing the offer. A chance to thank the man who had changed the course of her life with a simple act of generosity. A chance to close the circle. She typed her reply carefully. "Thank you for the beautiful article, Nicole. As for meeting Keanu, I'd be honored, but only if he wants to. His kindness came with no expectation of recognition or gratitude. That's what made it so powerful." After sending the email, Amanda stayed on the balcony for a long time, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. She thought about the article, about seeing her story laid out so clearly, connected to all the other stories it had touched and changed. The Keanu effect. It was an apt name for what had happened, though Amanda knew it wasn't really about Keanu at all. It was about what happens when someone, anyone, chooses kindness over indifference. When someone sees another person's struggle and decides to help, not because they have to, but because they can. As she finally went inside, Amanda paused at Ethan's door, peering in at her sleeping son. In the soft glow of his nightlight, she could see how much he had grown in the past year, not just physically, but in confidence, in security, in his understanding of the world. "We help people when we can," he had explained to a friend recently, with the simple certainty of a child who has seen this principle in action. Because that's what makes the world better. Out of the mouths of babes, Amanda thought, gently closing his door, the most profound truths distilled to their essence. She went to her own room and opened the bedside drawer, taking out the envelope she had placed there nearly a year ago. "Open when you forget that miracles happen," she had written on the front. She hadn't needed to open it yet. The miracle was still unfolding day by day, ripple by ripple, reaching farther than she ever could have imagined. But tonight, she carefully unsealed the envelope and read her own words from that night. Her hopes, her gratitude, her commitment to passing on what she had received. It was like a message from a different person, someone who couldn't yet see the full picture of what was possible. Amanda folded the letter and returned it to the drawer, next to Keanu's original note, which she had preserved as a reminder of where it all began. Then she took out a fresh piece of paper and began to write a new letter, this one addressed to Keanu Reeves himself. Whether he would ever read it remained to be seen. But Amanda needed to put into words what his act of kindness had meant, how it had multiplied beyond measure, how it had revealed to her the power that each person holds to change the world around them. "Dear Mr. Reeves," she wrote, "you won't remember me, but last year you changed my life with a simple act of kindness. 10 minutes until you're on, Ms. Gutierrez." Amanda looked up from her notes to see a young production assistant hovering nervously in the doorway of the green room. She smiled reassuringly. "Thank you. I'll be ready." As the assistant disappeared, Amanda took a deep breath and smoothed her jacket, a rich burgundy blazer borrowed from Alejandra, who had insisted it was perfect for television. The CNN studios were more intimidating than she had expected, all sleek surfaces and purposeful energy. "You okay, Mom?" Ethan asked. He sat across from her, legs swinging, looking surprisingly comfortable in this foreign environment. Dr. Carey had arranged for him to miss school for this important day, and he had been thrilled by the behind-the-scenes tour of the studio. "I'm fine, mijo," Amanda assured him, though her stomach was performing gymnastics. "Just a little nervous about talking in front of so many people." "You'll be great," Ethan said with absolute conviction. "Just pretend you're explaining to Mrs. Porter why she needs to take all her medicines. You're good at that." Amanda laughed, her tension easing slightly. Leave it to her son to put things in perspective. "That's excellent advice." The door opened again, and Nicole Elliott entered, looking professional in a tailored pantsuit. Over the past few months, the reporter had become something of a friend. Her initial story about the Keanu effect, having launched both their careers to new heights. "They're ready for mic check," Nicole said. "And Amanda? He's here." Amanda's heart stuttered. "Here? Now?" Nicole nodded, her expression a mix of excitement and empathy. "In the studio. He arrived about 10 minutes ago. Very low-key, just like you'd expect." The letter Amanda had written to Keanu Reeves had never been sent. She had sealed it and placed it in her drawer beside his original note, deciding that some forms of gratitude were better kept private. But 3 weeks ago, Nicole had called with astonishing news. Keanu had seen her article. More than that, he had expressed interest in meeting Amanda and learning more about how his small gesture had grown into something so significant. The CNN feature, originally planned as a solo interview with Amanda, had evolved into something bigger, a conversation about kindness, community, and the unexpected ways that lives intersect and change each other. And now, apparently, Keanu Reeves himself would be part of it. "I'm not sure I can do this," Amanda whispered, suddenly feeling like the overwhelmed single mother in the grocery store checkout line again. Nicole squeezed her arm gently. "You absolutely can. Just be yourself, the woman who took a moment of kindness and multiplied it 1,000-fold. She glanced at Ethan, who was watching them curiously. "Besides, you have your biggest supporter right here." Amanda nodded, drawing strength from her son's presence. "You're right. Let's do this." The studio was larger than it appeared on television, with multiple cameras and bright lights creating an artificial day. Amanda was led to a comfortable chair across from the host, a well-known anchor named Gabriel Daniels, whose friendly demeanor helped calm her nerves. As the production team made final adjustments to lighting and sound, she scanned the room, looking for Keanu. There he was, standing quietly near the back, dressed simply in dark jeans and a blazer, much as he had been that day in the grocery store. Their eyes met across the room, and he gave a small, almost shy smile. Amanda returned it, a wave of emotion washing over her. This man had no idea who she was when he helped her that day, no idea of the doors his kindness would open. "We're live." "In 30 seconds, called the director, and everyone took their positions. Gabriel welcomed Amanda warmly, reviewed their talking points one last time, and then the countdown began. 3, 2, 1. "Welcome to American Innovators," Gabriel began, looking directly into the camera. "Today, we have an extraordinary story about how a single act of kindness sparked a healthcare revolution in one community, and potentially across the nation. I'm joined by Amanda Gutierrez, founder of the East Side Patient Advocacy Center, a groundbreaking program that's changing how underserved communities access healthcare." The camera swung to Amanda, who took a deep breath and smiled, thinking of all the people who had helped her reach this moment. "Thank you for having me, Gabriel." "Amanda, your program has been called a model for community-based healthcare intervention, but its origin story is quite remarkable. Can you share how this all began?" Here it was, the moment to share her story with a national audience. Amanda spoke clearly, her initial nervousness fading as she described that day in the grocery store, the declined card, the stranger behind her who stepped forward to help. She explained how the encounter had inspired her to create ripples of kindness in her own community, which had grown into waves of change. "The most powerful part," she concluded, "was realizing that we all have this capacity to help each other. My neighbors and I had been struggling individually for so long, when what we really needed was to connect, to share resources, to build something together." Gabriel nodded thoughtfully. "And that initial act of kindness came from someone rather unexpected." "Yes," Amanda acknowledged, though what struck me wasn't his celebrity, but his humanity, the way he helped without drawing attention to himself, without making me feel less than. Just one person recognizing another person's need. "Well," Gabriel said with a smile, "we have a surprise for you today. The person who started this chain reaction is here to meet you formally." He turned toward the back of the studio. "Please welcome Keanu Reeves to our conversation." The camera panned to show Keanu walking toward them, that same gentle half smile on his face. Amanda stood as he approached, her heart racing. The audience would see a composed professional greeting a famous actor, but inside she was that struggling mother again, overwhelmed by unexpected kindness. "Ms. Gutierrez," Keanu said, taking her offered hand in both of his. "It's an honor to meet you, officially this time." "The honor is mine," Amanda replied, finding her voice. "Please, call me Amanda." As they sat down, Gabriel guided the conversation skillfully. "Keanu, when you helped a stranger in that grocery store, did you have any idea of the impact it would have?" Keanu shook his head, his expression thoughtful. "No, it wasn't about impact. It was just the right thing to do." He spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. We all have these moments where we can choose connection or disconnection, kindness or indifference. And yet, Gabriel pressed, that simple choice led to the creation of a healthcare program that's now being implemented in 5 cities across the country, with more expressing interest every week. "That had nothing to do with me," Keanu said, firmly, glancing at Amanda. "That was all Amanda's vision, her hard work, her community coming together. I just happened to be there at a particular moment." "But that moment mattered," Amanda interjected, surprising herself with her boldness. "It mattered because it came when I was at my lowest point, when I felt invisible and alone. Your kindness reminded me that I wasn't, that we're all connected, all responsible for each other." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "That's what the Patient Advocacy Center is really about. Not just connecting people with healthcare resources, but reminding them that they matter, that their health matters, that they're not fighting alone." The conversation flowed naturally from there, with Gabriel asking about specific aspects of the program: the transportation network that helped elderly patients get to appointments, the multilingual team that ensured nothing was lost in translation, the partnership with pharmaceutical companies to make medications more affordable. Keanu listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about implementation challenges and community engagement strategies. He seemed genuinely interested in the mechanics of systemic change, in how individual actions could restructure broken systems. "What's next for the program?" Gabriel asked as their time began to wind down. "We're developing a toolkit," Amanda explained, "so other communities can implement similar programs tailored to their specific needs. The Patterson Foundation is helping us create training materials, data collection systems, and mentorship opportunities. Our goal is to have 50 centers operational within the next 3 years. Ambitious," Gabriel noted approvingly. "Necessary," Amanda corrected gently. "Because what we've learned is that the solutions to our biggest problems already exist within our communities. People know what they need. They just need the resources and support to make it happen." Gabriel turned to Keanu. "And what about you? Has seeing the impact of your action changed how you think about kindness or community?" Keanu considered the question carefully. "It's reinforced something I've always believed, that we're all just walking each other home." He glanced at Amanda. Hearing Amanda's story, seeing what she and her community have built, it's a powerful reminder that change doesn't always come from the top down. Sometimes it grows from the ground up, from one person deciding to help another, and then another, until something new takes root. As the segment concluded, Gabriel thanked them both and promised viewers a follow-up story in 6 months to track the program's expansion. The cameras stopped rolling. The bright lights dimmed slightly, and the studio burst into applause. Amanda felt a tugging at her sleeve and turned to find Ethan standing beside her, having been brought onto the set now that filming was complete. "You were awesome, Mom," he whispered loudly. "Thanks, mijo," she smiled, putting an arm around his shoulders. Keanu noticed the boy and crouched slightly to meet his eye level. "You must be Ethan. Your mom has told me a lot about you." Ethan nodded, unusually shy in the presence of the actor. "Thank you for helping us that day," he said finally. "It made everything different." Something flickered across Keanu's face, a moment of genuine emotion breaking through his composed exterior. "You're very welcome," he said softly. Then, to Amanda, "You've raised an extraordinary young man. He's taught me as much as I've taught him, Amanda replied honestly, especially about resilience. As the studio crew began dismantling equipment around them, Gabriel approached with Nicole. That was fantastic, the anchor said warmly. Truly one of our best segments this year. The response online is already incredible, Nicole added, holding up her phone to show a social media feed flooding with positive comments. People are asking how they can support the program or start something similar in their own communities. Amanda felt a wave of gratitude so intense it almost overwhelmed her. This platform, this opportunity to share their work with a national audience, it was more than she could have imagined a year ago. Thank you all for making this possible, she said. Actually, Nicole said with a meaningful glance at Keanu, there's one more surprise. She nodded to a production assistant who approached with a large envelope and handed it to Keanu. He turned to Amanda. The Patterson Foundation does amazing work, he said, but expanding to 50 centers in 3 years will require additional resources. He handed her the envelope. My foundation would like to help make that happen. With trembling fingers, Amanda opened the envelope and unfolded the document inside. It was a commitment letter for a $2 million grant to support the expansion of the Patient Advocacy Center model nationwide. I can't accept this, she whispered, stunned by the figure. You can, Keanu said firmly, because it's not a gift. It's an investment in work that matters, work that's already proven its value. He paused, his expression earnest. You've built something important, Amanda, something that deserves to grow. Ethan, peering at the letter, gasped when he saw the amount. Mum, we could help so many people with that. His innocent excitement broke through Amanda's shock. He was right. This wasn't about her accepting charity. It was about scaling a solution that worked, about helping more communities build the infrastructure. They needed to take care of each other. Thank you, she said finally, meeting Keanu's gaze directly. We'll make sure it counts. I know you will, he replied simply. Later, after interviews and photographs, after exchanging contact information, with production staff and network executives, Amanda found herself alone with Keanu for a brief moment. The studio had emptied as everyone moved to a small reception in an adjacent room, where Ethan was happily enjoying the attention of the CNN staff. I never sent the letter I wrote to you, Amanda confessed in the quiet of the empty studio. After your note said to pass it on, I wanted to honor that by focusing forward, not back. Keanu nodded, understanding in his eyes. The best thank you is what you've already done, taking a small moment and transforming it into something lasting. Still, Amanda said, I want you to know that what happened that day, it wasn't just about the money. It was about being seen when I felt invisible. About being reminded that I wasn't alone, even when everything felt impossible. We're all invisible sometimes, Keanu replied softly. All struggling in ways others can't see. Maybe kindness is just about acknowledging that, about really seeing each other, even if just for a moment. They stood in companionable silence for a beat, two people connected by a chance encounter that had grown into something neither could have predicted. Ready to join the others? Keanu asked finally, gesturing toward the reception. Amanda nodded, feeling a sense of completion, of a circle closing. Ready. As they walked together, she thought about the journey of the past year, from a desperate mother at a grocery checkout to the founder of a nationally recognized program. From isolation to community, from despair to purpose, all because of a moment of kindness that had reminded her of her own power to create change. A moment that had shown her that even in our darkest times, we are never truly alone. That we are, all as Keanu had said, just walking each other home. And in that walking, in that accompanying one another through joy and struggle alike, we find not just survival, but transformation. Not just community, but family. Not just hope, but a way. forward together.